What's up guys, K-Plays here. It's been less than a week since the influx of Monster Hunter Wilds gameplay that we got from Gamescom. Everyone's seen the new tricks and crazy new abilities of their favorite weapons, and if you've been following my coverage, you'll know that Hunting Horn is no exception to that. I'm coming to realize though that there may be a bit of a dilemma on our hands. And I know what some of you might be thinking, but K-Plays, I thought you said that Hunting Horn was going to be great in Wilds. Weren't you super excited for it during Gamescom? And you're right, Hunting Horn is shaping up to be in possibly the best state it's ever been. And I'm absolutely pumped for it. However, I'm finding that the further you get from the Hunting Horn meeting portion of the community, the less people seem to know about the huge changes coming to it. Now, I doubt that everyone is studying absolutely every detail of every single weapon. People care about their favorite playstyles, it makes perfect sense. You'll notice that as deep as a dive I went into the Hunting Horn gameplay, I sure didn't do that times 14. However, my worry isn't that nobody's doing much talking about Hunting Horn. Trust me, I can do enough of that for everyone. It's that when they do talk about it, more often than not, it's only to mention one thing.
Yes, you can buff yourself with a Hunting Horn and then switch to another weapon.
I can tell you something else. I believe Hunting Horn buffs remain.
One important detail to consider about swapping weapons then is something like the Hunting Horn. That provides party buffs when you play different songs, of course. So when you play songs and get the buff and then swap weapon, you will maintain those buffs for a while.
Hunting Horn is going to be seeing a lot more playtime in Wilds due to one specific feature. The buffs from Hunting Horn persist even if you switch weapons while on your Sacred. That's right, so even if you're not a Hunting Horn main, you can definitely bring one along, buff yourself, then swap to your main weapon while still maintaining all of those Hunting Horn songs and buffs for their full duration.
I feel like bringing along a secondary like Pogun to spam status shots might put it in a similar position, and slightly hypocritically, full disclosure, I might be considering it myself for speedrun shenanigans. Sue me. But I guess it'll be something to discover later because I haven't seen it mentioned nearly as much as this. Despite all the great things coming to it, the main takeaway for a chunk of the overall community when it comes to Hunting Horn apparently is that you don't have to use it anymore. Yes, both through some more thorough testing than the first time it was mentioned and a confirmation from the devs themselves, we now know that it's possible and intended that Hunting Horn buffs carry over when you switch to another weapon. Self-improvement is still a totally Hunting Horn unique buff of course, but any other normal Hunting Horn buff, that's totally fair game. This would be all well and good if it were just a convenience factor for the players planning to use both Hunting Horn and another weapon, but let's be real. There are players out there planning to exploit this interaction and use Hunting Horn as little as possible. I'm dubbing this the Pocket Horn problem, and here's why I'm not too happy about its implications. Just a disclaimer before we even start, I'm not trying to speak doom and gloom here. The sky isn't falling, I just want to give my 2 cents. The concerns I'm going to share are purely out of my love for my favorite weapon and wanting to see it do well in what's most likely going to be my favorite Monster Hunter game to date. Historically speaking, pretty much every weapon has its own unique set of abilities, strengths, and balancing weaknesses that sets them apart from the rest. For Hunting Horn, this is obviously the ability to play melodies with a wide variety of effects to boost both itself and teammates. Those can be pretty impactful too, ranging from shutting down disruptive monster abilities, increasing survivability, or boosting damage. Mostly that third thing depending on who you ask. If you know, you know. But add that onto a weapon with stuns for free damage opportunities and you've got a real team player. Not that it can't hold its own in solo of course, seeing as all those buffs affect you just as much as they do others. To compensate for having all that utility, Hunting Horn tends to have lower than average damage potential compared to other weapons. And no, we're not going to do that whole feel-good positivity only thing where we say that it does just as much damage as anything else. We talk facts when it comes to Hunting Horn on this channel. Doesn't make it any less fun or any worse of a weapon to acknowledge the truth on that. And really, from a game balance perspective, that's perfectly sensible. I mean, I absolutely wouldn't mind a little power boost if Capcom's offering, but it makes sense that a weapon class with that much going for it elsewhere isn't a top 5 damage dealer. But then, what happens if, through the 2-weapon system, you allow access to those abilities no matter what weapon the player uses and leave out the corresponding trade-offs? Well, whether or not it's intended, it leaves us in this weird scenario where the only weapon that pays for the ability to use Hunting Horn buffs when it comes to balancing is Hunting Horn itself, which would leave it in an unfortunate position to say the least. I mean, for all we know, they might have already thought all this through and finally took the limiters off of Hunting Horn and let it go toe-to-toe with weapons typically stronger than it. But that's something we've yet to see, so all we have at the moment is some slight concerns. Aside from that, there's also the support weapon stigma now having another layer on top of it. It'll be pretty hard to beat those allegations if Hunting Horn ends up being used as passive support even in single player mode now. We've never really worried about being the most popular weapon. I mean, shoot, achieving the 3.6% usage rate at the end of Sunbreak was huge as is. And we all know that the real cool kids hunt monsters with their musical instruments. But for anyone that may have been looking to join the club, song buffs are no longer a totally exclusive draw. Luckily, we still have a fun playstyle that's getting more and more stylish and eye-catching since Rise, but still. Song buffs aren't the only thing a hunting horn has going for it, but it is a significant thing. And to consider that some players may reduce it to just that is a bit disappointing. Now, before we go further into this, I again want to specify that I'm not trying to gatekeep Hunting Horn or anything here. If you want to play Hunting Horn as a secondary weapon, more power to you. We can always use more players in the band. It's a ton of fun, and you should absolutely be able to add that fun onto whatever you get out of any other weapon. That said though, there's a world of difference between actually using Hunting Horn and treating it as a glorified buffing item with extra steps. That, I'd feel, would devalue an awesome weapon just as it's getting a huge set of improvements to its gameplay. As much as I wish there would be at least a bit of deterrent towards that possible outcome, I get for the sake of inclusivity when it comes to the two-weapon system that they can't really handle it any other way. Like, say for example, a Hunting Horn user wants to bring along another weapon. They shouldn't be punished by having their buffs disappear, or discouraged from ever swapping in multiplayer so the team can take advantage of their songs. But at the same time, this puts the weapon in a unique sort of gray area. No other option in the game really has abilities that would affect other players or continue to be in effect after a swap, so no other weapon really faces this dilemma of its unique gimmick being exploited. Kinsect extracts, Power Axe mode, Red Spirit Gauge, all tied to their respective weapons. Any impact weapon user looking to cut a tail, or a melee weapon user looking to snipe a flying monster at range, they'd still need to actively engage in a hunt using those secondary weapons to complement their primary choice. Hunting Horn, on the other hand, could easily really be just turned into a handful of stat buffs for a few minutes at the cost of a few button presses. And we haven't really even mentioned the recent news we got from the PAX West demo. Remember how I pointed out that while this whole buffing other weapons process might be possible, it might not necessarily be practical with all the mounting and dismounting shenanigans? Well, yeah. While we don't have any confirming footage of this in action, it seems that you'll be able to stock notes and play songs while mounted. This right here is an example of the pocket horn problem in play, because I should have been 100% excited to hear this. Regardless of the implications, this is a great feature for Hunting Horn users. We'll be able to pre-buff on the go as long as the song doesn't require no 3 input, on top of loading a song cue to recital attack before we even engage a monster. And riding into battle playing the song of your people, man what a feeling that'll be. On the other hand though, it also effectively removes one of the steps that would deter players from turning Hunting Horn into a minigame for free stat boosts. It'll still take a checklist several steps long to do and locks Pocket Horn users out of a lot of songs unless they dismount first, but still. On that note though, there may just be a silver lining here stopping Pocket Horn users from becoming the norm. Rurikhan, in his living the dream moment of interviewing all the producers of Monster Hunter, asked about this very possibility.
So, with the introduction of the new system where we can switch between 2 weapons, there's now a fear that some players will just want to use the Hunting Horn to buff themselves and then swap into a different weapon. Is this something that you have considered?
Yeah, I'm aware it's a hot topic in the community. The system where you can choose any 2 weapons is important, and I don't want to limit people from choosing a Hunting Horn as a secondary if they want to do that. And I also want to make it so that the Hunting Horn buffs you apply will remain on you even if you change back to another weapon in your possession, because that's only fair and it makes sense. But the concern that it's some sort of balance breaker where people will just be permanently buffed is something I'm aware of, and we're working on making sure that it remains a balanced system so that Hunting Horn doesn't become the only viable secondary weapon.
It may have been from the perspective of worries about this becoming the overall meta rather than the concerns for Hunting Horn or Hunting Horn users themselves, but the answer is still important. They have thought about these implications to some extent, and while they do want players to be able to do this if possible, they have taken some steps to mitigate the chances of Pocket Horn becoming the norm. So what does this mean? Are they going to block it? Will people still try it? Well, probably yeah. It's inevitable solely because it's possible. But on the bright side, with maybe a little touch of hopium behind it, I'm still kinda concerned, but I don't think I'll have to be for long. Why? Well, the reason is funny. For as much as it's being talked about right now, it's mostly due to the meme, I think. There's probably a chance that a lot of players just aren't gonna bother. Speedrunners, yeah, they might for the 15 to 20% extra damage to start, but only if it fits into wild speedrunning rules and if it's the actually most efficient use of their time in secondary weapon slot. Your average player though, different story entirely. I mean, think about it, and be really real with yourself when you answer this question. Do you take your vitamins before every hunt? Might Seed, Armor Seed, Demon Drug, Armor Skin, Demon Powder, Hardshell Powder? If not all of them, maybe just a few? If you do, then good on you, Mr. Max Efficiency Hunter, but from what I typically see, you're in the minority. If most hunters can't be bothered to just easily click a few items every hunt, how much will actually be crafting horns? learning how to stock and queue songs and nothing else about Hunting Horn, calling their sacred all the time and constantly swapping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth every couple minutes just to play these buffs again. Even just doing this once to start a fight strong, even being able to play songs on Birdback, that just seems like a pain to me, and I play Hunting Horn full time. But speaking of which, you know what benefit that gives me? The easiest and most consistent song upkeep in the game. I'd like to see the pocket horn, heavy bowgun, or longsword user take my job when I always have my buffs ready in hand, hassle-free with no need to constantly swap. I also get access to echo bubble effects, because with a minute-long duration, there's no way you're going to be able to maintain those and use another weapon at the same time. I also get access to the full playstyle of another weapon, if I want to, with anyone bringing a pocket horn will quickly realize that they're giving up for a few stat bonuses that may or may not even be worth the time and effort it takes to fully utilize them. And to top it all off, they'd be cheating themselves out of the experience of the fun that really using, this amazing weapon gives. All in all, I might just be kind of rambling here and kind of went from doom and gloom to rational and hopeful at the end, but I really do feel like this all bears mentioning. You could put money on the chance that more often than not, the current talk about Hunting Horn out there isn't about the massively improved recital mode, the great damage potential and strategic aspects of echo bubbles, or the new note stocking techniques that'll really level up our skill gameplay. And that's kind of disappointing, because those are some things that have me and a few special like-minded hunters really excited. People are saying that a lot more people will be using Hunting Horn, and I'd love that to be the case. I'm just hoping it's for the right reasons, you know? If you ask me, the only reason I have a horn in your back pocket is so you can pull out your second horn with melodies extended and juggle 2 song lists at once. If there's any time to pick up the weapon and actually give it a shot, it's in Wilds, where it will be blowing all the past versions of itself out of the water. So do me a favor. If you're planning on using Hunting Horn, stick with that choice, it's a good one. But if you're planning on using Pocket Horn, give my main a real shot. Who knows? You just might like it for more than buffs. And if you don't end up joining us, we dedicated duders will still be around to share with you anyway. Till next time though, this has been another K-Plays and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.